How's it going, everybody? Welcome back. Take His Whistle podcast. We got week 6 coming up and week 5 review to do. Stay tuned.
Oh, come on. Somebody take his whistle.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Take His Whistle podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Josh, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend and co-host, Parker.
Hello.
Alrighty, Parker. We had a action-packed week 5 this past week.
Yes, we did.
We had a major upset. We had a game of the year, and we had a very heartbreaking and sad loss, all in the same week. Very fun.
It was a fun week. It was a very fun week. Football was top tier. Football
Alexa,
or college football.
Shut up. Sorry.
A word. College football proves this week alone why it is better than the NFL, in my opinion.
Oh, 100%.
Overall.
You don't get Alabama, Georgia in the NFL. You don't get that.
No. Like even the Chiefs versus the Ravens doesn't bring that type of just feeling, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people said that like this game didn't mean as much because of the 12-team playoff now. Like last year, if these two teams played, it would inevitably end somebody's season pretty much. But now it's like it kind of is like almost more amplified just because even if you lose though, like it's not over yet. And I mean, it was just such a big game feel, in my opinion. It was awesome.
Yeah. All right, well, let's go ahead and hold off on that game for a while. Let's go ahead and get started with our teams before jumping into the rest of college football.
Right.
So I think it's only fair. We did it last week. I guess we'll go ahead and do it this week. Let's go ahead and start with the losing team this week. Unfortunately, we can only say that about one team this week, and that is my...
Unfortunately?
That is my dear... Unfortunately. And it is unfortunately my beloved Louisville Cardinals. We fell into the hands of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, 31-24. I guess give me your thoughts on it first, Parker, and then I'll get into what I've got to say.
Well, definitely like just watching that game with pretty much not having a dog in the fight. I mean, you guess I could say I was rooting for Notre Dame, but I was not like first down every single time that Notre Dame got a first down. I didn't really have a dog in the fight, just watching it. Sloppy from both sides. I mean, that first quarter, what was there, 5 turnovers in that first quarter or something like that? Maybe even more than that?
Yeah, no, pretty much.
Something was in the air in South Bend where nobody could get a grip on the game. Louisville obviously came out on fire with the forced fumble on the kickoff and then ended up being a passing touchdown to take an early 7-0 lead. We were talking to our buddy Caleb earlier, and he even said like that place was bumping with all the red there was bumping after that first play, and I was like, I guarantee it. Like, I'm guaranteed that place was hot. But then Notre Dame definitely settled down first, in my opinion. It looked like Louisville was very, very just all over the place very early in that game. Shuck had a fumble on a big rushing play, threw his first interception of the year. Special teams had some bloops. So definitely early was, I mean, obviously it was the deciding factor, right? Notre Dame put up 21 points in the first quarter and then 10 the rest of the game. So, like, that ended up ultimately just that rough start was the reason the game ended that way. And then, obviously, the officiating. The officiating was questionable in that game. I know you, Josh, you don't really want to use that as an excuse, but, I mean, even me watching it, again, not having a dog in the fight, I thought that Louisville got screwed pretty heavily on some plays. And so does Louisville Twitter. Louisville Twitter is a train wreck right now. But, Josh, other than that, really, I mean, yeah, I guess you could really pinpoint plays that are players that didn't really play good, but I think overall Louisville didn't play horrible, like position wise. Like not one player struggled really bad. Just overall as a team, sloppy beginning of the game, but really locked in and outscored Notre Dame 17-10 after the first quarter.
Yeah. So my main point is I'll work backwards to the first thing you said. So the officiating, I don't want to use it as an excuse because the refs were bad in general. They weren't bad. They weren't bad in a sense of that they were screwing over Louisville. They were bad in the sense that they were just missing calls for both teams. There were so many missed calls that favored Notre Dame. There were so many missed calls that favored Louisville. And whenever Louisville got a penalty called for us, or whenever something worked in Louisville's favor, we couldn't capitalize on it. The only thing that we capitalized on was that very first possession where we kicked off the ball at the very beginning of the game and we wound up getting a touchdown out of it to go up 7-0. That's the one time that we capitalized off of something going our way. The rest of the game, like you said, we just could not slow it down. We couldn't calm down, and we couldn't figure it out. So it was a very sloppy game from us. Another penalty-heavy game, which is something we really got to work on. Like, we cannot have these penalties getting called on us every other play because that's going to ruin you. It's going to ruin you, and we saw it last week because we had every opportunity to win that game. Notre Dame practically wanted us to win that game, and we gave it away. We gave it away because we couldn't capitalize. So it was frustrating to watch for sure. And like you said, we were talking to Caleb. I was even telling him earlier. We had so many possessions in the fourth quarter, to win that game, and we didn't get it done. Right. We had 5 more minutes of total time of possession than Notre Dame did. So you got to capitalize. And especially against a tough defense like Notre Dame, we did better. We did better than I think some people might think against a defense like Notre Dame. A lot of people think Notre Dame have a top-tier defense, and they do. It's true, they do. But they gave us many, many chances to win that game. And, there's honestly not much I can really say about it other than if you are a Louisville fan, there's not enough time to sit and keep sulking about this loss because we still have we still have an entire season ahead of us, and we still have all of conference play to play. We've only played one conference game. We have many more ahead of us, including this weekend, which is a very important game. There's just much more to look forward to than just having one loss against Notre Dame, who is a very good team, regardless of if their quarterback can pass or not. But I will say, last thing I will say, Tyler Shuck, he still looks legit. He made some throws in that game that were very impressive, including that throw he had to Ja'Cory Brooks in the back of the end zone where he was like tripping and
hammered.
He was literally like getting hammered and he threw it and it was just
pause.
You said it first. And then Ja'Cory Brooks managed to catch it and get both feet in, or at least 1 foot in. And then Ja'Cory Brooks again, just coming in swinging. I mean, he had 2 incredible catches this game, both for touchdowns. So Ja'Cory Brooks looks, I feel like I'm going to say this every single episode, but Ja'Cory Brooks looks every bit of a 5-star recruit, every bit of a guy who played for Alabama and was the best receiver on Alabama at some point. So I love him. I'm glad we have him because he tears defenses up. But yeah, that's the last thing I have on that game. It's a tough loss. It hurts, but we have a lot to look forward to. So I don't want to spend too much time sulking about it.
Well, really quick, keeping it on the receivers, this was also the debut of Colin Lacey, who really played his ass off. 5 catches, 71 yards.
Yeah.
And to me, I don't have the targets pulled up about how many targets he was, but it felt like watching that game. Oh, yeah.
I was just going to say, funny enough, Ja'Cory and Colin Lacey both had 5 receptions for 71 yards, and they averaged per catch 14.2 yards, which is very funny. But yeah, Colin Lacey, I mean, he also showed every bit of promise that we were hoping for. So it was very nice to see him back out there.
And it really, like I said, I don't have it pulled up, but I kind of felt like watching that game, Colin Lacey got a considerable amount of more targets than Ja'Cory Brooks. Like, he was almost Shuck's number one receiver in that game. I don't know that for a fact. I could be wrong, but it just looked like I feel like Lacey got more targets. It was like Ja'Cory Brooks was more of like the heavy hitter, the deep pass thrower, or catcher, I should say. And Lacey was more of your, 10, 15-yard play kind of receiver. But, yeah, both of them looked great. The running game, it took a while, but, I mean, Isaac Brown ended up getting 72 yards. So, I mean, I guess you can't really complain too much about it. Donald Chaney had another 38, and then Shuck had 36, which most of it came from that one big run that ended up being a fumble, but still, being able to get out of the pocket and move for Shuck was big. So yeah, I don't think Louisville, like you said, first of all, they shouldn't hang their head on any of this, because all in all, whether it being a new age rivalry, they had quite literally, that game means absolutely nothing. I mean, it's the exact same as the Kentucky Louisville game, right? Like the Kentucky Louisville game really doesn't mean much, other than it being a rivalry game, because Louisville is probably still one of the favorites to make the playoffs after the Miami performance this past week. I think Louisville and Clemson are the two new favorites to make the playoffs, in my opinion. And I honestly say that just because I can't believe Miami struggled against Virginia Tech the way they did. They should have lost. So, yeah, and Louisville's got everything to play for. And this SMU game is massive because SMU is hot. SMU is a hot team right now. They busted Florida State, which I don't know what that means anymore, if it doesn't mean anything at all. But they did bust Florida State. They killed them. Ever since Preston Stone lost his starting spot or got hurt, I really don't even know what happened to him, SMU's been taking off. They have been taking off. And so I'm excited for it. I know both of us are going to be at that game. It's going to be a good one for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited for this upcoming game this weekend. It should be fun. It should be fun. SMU, like you said, ever since benching Preston, they've kind of turned a corner there, and it should be very intriguing because that game all of a sudden is now, I mean, more or less, it's now a must-win game, more or less now. So, every conference game is every conference game.
I was about to say, every conference game is must win.
But this game becomes that much more important after that loss to Notre Dame.
And that's what I'm also excited to see is how does Louisville respond after coming off a loss?
Yeah.
Because it felt like last year Louisville went down to Pitt, like they lost to Pitt, and they then, ever since that Pitt game, it was kind of like a downhill roll. It was slow, but it was still a downhill roll. It was like Louisville didn't look the same after that Pitt loss.
Yeah, as far as last year goes, yes, we went on a 5-game win streak after that Pitt game,
but they were close.
Maybe a 4-game win streak,
for the most part.
But you saw the blueprint developing on how to beat Louisville. Like, you saw teams start to stack the box more and more and more and more. And then finally, in those last 3 games of the season, you really saw it. And then you really saw how bad Louisville became once teams figured them out. But I guess to sum it all up, don't hang your head. Long season ahead. We're still 3-1, still in the top 25, with very many opportunities to rise back up the rankings in the next few weeks, including a home game against Miami that is approaching very rapidly.
2 weeks, I believe. 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, it is very soon from now. So that's hopefully it can be a good one. But
I think it will.
But Parker, I think that's enough about us. It is time to move on to the brighter side of the week. The Kentucky Wildcats travel to Ole Miss and take down the, 6th-ranked Rebels, 20-17, to make them fall to 4-1 on the season and make Kentucky go to 3-2. Tell me about it, Parker.
I mean, dude, like, where do I even start? I am beyond proud to be a Kentucky fan about it. I'm it's just such a great win that has been developing for so long. Brock Vandegrift finally showed his 5-star talent that I felt like it was down there somewhere. It had to just to come out at some point, and he finally did show it. 243 yards, touchdowns, no interceptions. The dude balled. And I know Jackson Dart had more passing yards by 18, but I personally think that Vandegrift outplayed Jackson Dart, who is considered a top-tier quarterback in this country. I think that he just outplayed him. Had bigger plays at bigger moments. Obviously, it came down to the last-second field goal, and Kentucky finally caught a break after all this time. Caught a break, hooked it wide left, and down goes the Rebels, and started a chain effect of Ole Miss fans. You want to talk about Louisville fans not really getting over this loss? Ole Miss fans have been in absolute shambles after this loss. That I can't believe it. But the defense, once again, got to give credit to the defense. As much as I want to talk about the offense because the offense finally shined, you got to give credit to the defense. I mean, we absolutely locked down. That's not 2 weeks in a row, but 2 times now Kentucky has locked up a top offense in the country. The first being Georgia, and now Ole Miss. Only holding to Ole Miss, obviously 17 points in the game, but only 7 in the first half. I mean, just was amazing. Played amazing ball. And that's without our top cornerback, one of our top defensive players, Maxwell Harrison. J.Q. Hardaway had to step in and be that number 1 corner, and he did it amazingly. He did have that one. He had 4th down, which really hurt us at the time. 4th down, he let Trey Harris get open for a touchdown late in the 4th. But overall, J.Q. Hardaway played his ass off being cornerback 1, going up against Trey Harris, who is one of the top receivers in the game. But yeah, the offense was great. And then what I do want to talk about, which I probably want to spend the most time on because I want to hear your thoughts about it too.
Yeah.
Mark Stoops, man. Mark Stoops, in my opinion, top to bottom, first quarter to fourth quarter, outcoached Lane Kiffin. 100% in my opinion. I mean, the way that he handled that game, the way that he was able to get a last-second score at the end of the first, the way that he just used his timeouts, which we haven't seen yet, and then just the play calling, which you got to give some credit to Bush Hamden on that too. The play calling was amazing. I mean, that 4th and 7 at Kentucky's 20 with the game on the line, throwing a deep ball to Berrien Brown, which I know last time we talked on the pod, you had some questions about Berrien Brown, like where was he at this year? Berrien finally just showed out. He completely showed out this game, or with that one catch, I should say. Came up majorly, pretty much put us in this position to win. And then Gavin Wimsatt almost blew it for us with that fumble, but luckily we were right there. But I think Mark Stoops really just outcoached Kiffin start to bottom from that game. Josh, what do you think about Stoops' performance?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, Stoops definitely outcoached Kiffin and for the whole game. One coach looked like he wanted to win, the other one looked like he was trying not to lose. And that's not how you win football games. And for a guy like Lane Kiffin, he should know that. But Lane Kiffin, dude, like I didn't mind him before this game, but then they lost, and then you told me to go watch his post-game presser, and I could not have changed my mind about a guy so quick. Like that man does not know how to take a loss. Like
No.
Like I don't know what it is, but he like bashed Stoops. He bashed the guy who just outcoached him for 60 minutes, and just beat you. Like you're a top 10 team in the country. Make it even worse, you're a top 8 team in the country, borderline top 5, and you lose to a team who all week, all you had to say about them was Kentucky's always going to be Kentucky. And then you don't even own up to your coaching mistakes, and you don't even own up to the fact that they just destroyed might be a strong word, but I mean y'all's defense destroyed them.
I mean, I really think that. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I just the biggest thing I took from that game is just how much of a douchebag Lane Kiffin is.
I think overall, obviously the score doesn't do it justice. I think Kentucky dominated top to bottom from that game. Kentucky had more rushing yards. They had more first downs, more third down conversions, more fourth down conversions. Had the ball almost 20 more minutes than Ole Miss did. If that doesn't say how good our defense was, Ole Miss's offense couldn't stay out on the field. Right?
Yeah,
right?
not at all.
I think Kentucky even though it was only a 3-point win, I think Kentucky dominated.
Yeah, and Jackson Dart looked like a stick in the mud out there. Like he was just getting pressured all day. He could not make a throw. Again, like you said, box score aside, he did not look great at all on Saturday. And what's crazy about it is the defense played so well. Yet Ole Miss had a chance to tie that game. They had a chance. They could have taken it to overtime, and their
Caden Davis.
I'm trying to think. Their kicker. I don't know how I forgot the word kicker, but their kicker, missed wide. What was it? Wide left.
Was not ready for the big
wide
time
left?
moment.
Yeah.
Wide left. Wide left.
Yeah, and he wasn't ready for it. So and it was not a far field goal. That's a kick you got to make.
No, I think it was only
20 yards,
40 yards or something like that. Yeah, something like that.
That's a kick you got to make. But we're not here to bash the kicker.
No, that's the last of the problems.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Seriously. But a very good win for Kentucky, who now gets to, I don't want to say fall back, but Kentucky now gets a game against Vanderbilt. So we'll see how that game goes.
It's a bye week this week.
Oh, you guys do have a bye week this week. Okay, so you get a great win, and then you do get the layback.
Enjoy the bye
because
week.
You get to enjoy the bye week, and then you get to go back home and play Vandy, who still haven't figured out.
It's not a pushover.
Still haven't figured.
They're not a pushover though. I can tell you that.
They are not the normal Vandy pushover that they normally are, at least this year.
And I'm very curious to see how the fan base reacts. How is that going to be? I mean, obviously you're coming off arguably the biggest win. I wouldn't say the biggest because we beat number 1 LSU in 2007, but biggest road win since 77. After the season that we've already had and the downs that we have already had this early in the season, how does the fan base react? Are they going to show out for this game? Is this game going to be packed even though it's against Vanderbilt? Or, is it just going to be like your normal run-of-the-mill Kentucky versus Vanderbilt crowd?
I wonder what Kentucky's defense is going to do against Vanderbilt because, as you might know, Parker, a lot of Vanderbilt's offense is their quarterback, and their quarterback just so happens to run the ball a lot. And that is not a type of player that Kentucky's defense has really had to face, at all this season. So I'm very interested to see I'm really interested to see how they handle Diego over at Vandy, but I'm very intrigued by that matchup.
It is, yeah,
but
for sure.
That's all I have on the Kentucky game. Do you have anything to finish
No,
up?
not just let's just keep it going. The fact that we can go into the Tennessee game and be. Hopefully we can. I think we have a chance to be 6-2 going into the Tennessee game. Is great. It's great, especially with what we've already had. And I think that our defense, as good as our defense is, can keep us into. I'm definitely by any means. I'm not going to say we're going to beat Texas or Tennessee, but I think our defense can at least make some things interesting, make some things hard on these top offenses. Tennessee being probably at the top now after Ole Miss kind of threw up a dud there. I'd say Tennessee is now the top offense. So, let's just keep it rolling. We got the biggest stretch of our season. Vanderbilt, Florida, Auburn is, I think, those 3 games are massive. So, let's just enjoy this bye week and get back to work next week. And yeah, but that's all I got.
All right. Well, in that case, Parker, let's go ahead and talk about the game of the weekend, arguably the game of the year. And it's only week 4. Week 5. Yeah, week 4. Georgia traveled to Tuscaloosa, Alabama to take on the Alabama Crimson Tide in a game where the Alabama Crimson Tide, just like me and Parker said they would, took home the dub 41-34. Parker, that game was one of the most incredible college football games I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, yeah, dude. Oh, my. It had everything you could possibly want in a football game. Everything.
Yeah, it had a first half blowout where you could arguably shut off the TV and be like, oh, well, this one's over, to a incredible comeback where the team took the lead late and it had practically a game-winning touchdown. It literally had like the three most exciting, or well,
I mean,
maybe the first one's not as exciting, but it literally had two of the most exciting factors in a college football game.
well, I'll be honest. I was a victim. I was like so locked into this game, and I didn't turn off after the first, but I turned it off. I never turned it off. I turned my attention off of it. I still had it on, but I was doing other things. Once Alabama was up like 28-7 or something like that. No, I swear to God, I didn't turn it off. Never turned it off. And I thought, I was like, wow.
I'm saying, like, you could tell the truth about what happened.
I know, just I was like, I thought this game was over. I thought it was over 100%. And obviously Georgia scored, and they scored again, and then they took the lead. Dude. And then Ryan Williams, dude, unbelievable, dude. Like, I can't imagine. I don't know. It's hard for me to comprehend this kid is 17 years old. This kid is 4 years younger than us, Josh. Practically almost 5 years younger than us. And he's doing the stuff. He is making our Georgia defenders look like freshmen in high school. Like, the way he is just making them just look stupid. I genuinely cannot believe it. It blows my mind how well Ryan Williams has played this year.
Yeah, he's an incredible talent and an incredible player. And like you said, 17 years old is just absurd. Like, he's making... And you say that we're 4 years older than him, but at the same time, he is embarrassing guys that are 4 years older than him, 5 years older than him, 6 years older than him. Like, it is
9 if you talk about Miami's tight end.
Yeah, he's embarrassing fathers, literally, and it's
for real.
It's just it's insane. Like, this kid, as a true freshman, like, he's younger than a freshman. I don't know. Like, he is truly, like, I don't think you can throw this word around lightly, but he is truly a generational talent. And
I mean, let me ask you this real quick. If Ryan Williams could declare for the NFL this year, do you think he would be the number one receiver? I know there's a bunch of great receivers, but just
this receiving class is very stacked. So it's hard for me to decide. But
right.
If college football was like college basketball, and you could declare after your freshman year, I think NFL teams would maybe hold more value for a true freshman doing this. Well, because not only because of how young he is, but just the sole fact that he's doing this as a freshman. You know, it's the same thing in college basketball. You know, NBA teams love.
I saw a video.
NBA teams love when true freshmen show out at the college level. That's why the true freshmen that go high in the draft. So know, I consider it to. I would assume it would be the same about the NFL. You know, if Ryan Williams is able to go out and do this as a true freshman in a sport where true freshmen don't even really touch the field, I mean, I can't tell you why he wouldn't be potentially the number one receiver off the board. The only other receiver that I would tell you could get picked over him as far as like true freshman goes is Jeremiah Smith over at Ohio State. Because he's also incredible.
I know. I saw a video saying that you don't even hit your physical peak until you're 25 years old.
Yeah.
So that is 8 years away for Ryan Williams. He's 8 years away from hitting his physical peak. I don't know, man. He's something else, and just exciting. He's not just that player that's just not going to drop balls and he's going to make plays. He is just a really good football player. He can make special plays at any given moment.
And the crazy thing about it is he's not tall, he's not big. He just has elite ball tracking, elite body movement. Like, he just knows how to control his body. Like, you know, the kid's only 6'1", maybe 160 at best, like, with clothes on soaking wet. Like, it baffles me. Like, he genuinely, like, he has the body build of Devontae Smith and the ball catching skills of Julio Jones. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, it is literally ridiculous. And that last catch he made, like, this is the last thing I'll glaze him about. That last catch he made where he caught it, spun in midair. Like, he hadn't even landed yet, and he spun after he caught it. And then he proceeded to dead leg spin 2 defenders and made them run into each other, and then ran in for the touchdown.
Kiss.
Yeah, he made them. Yeah. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But I cannot wait to watch this kid play football for the next 3 years.
Oh yeah, dude, yes. Who knows where he's going to be at, because he'll probably enter the transfer portal, because everybody does. But
nah, that boy's a Crimson Tide for life. I can tell you that.
One thing I kind of want to shift. I know there was a few other games that we can talk about, but I do want to kind of shift the episode a little bit, because, and obviously it doesn't matter because we're only 5 weeks into the college football season, but the rankings came out this week, and respectfully, the rankings are shit. The rankings are absolute dog shit, in my opinion. I don't know if you feel the same way. I haven't really talked to you about them.
I haven't looked at them, actually, to be honest.
Let's just start with Bama. Bama jumps all the way from 4-1 after their win over Georgia. That would be jump frogging Ohio State and Texas. I guess I'm okay with Texas, or I'm okay with Ohio State, because Ohio State truly hasn't played anybody serious yet. Texas, though, went into the Big House and beat Michigan. Pretty much beat the brakes off of Michigan. I understand Michigan's not the same Michigan as the past, but still a big-time game they won. And last week, they took down their first SEC opponent in Mississippi State, which, again, Mississippi State arguably is the worst team in the SEC this year, but still won that game. Me personally, as much as I think Alabama had a great game, even though they did blow the lead, I don't think they should jump Texas. That's just my personal speaking. I think Texas should have still been number 1 and Alabama B2.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one. Because it's not like Texas lost. Like, Texas won their game, and they won very, very convincingly. Like, I get they beat a nobody, but, like, at the same time, they still didn't lose. And they also won the game with their backup quarterback. So I don't know why.
And it was a conference opponent as well.
Yeah, and it was against a conference. It was against a conference opponent. You know, again, like I said, I understand it was Mississippi State, but, you know, like, I don't get it. Like, they should have just flipped Georgia and Alabama. Like, they should have just put Georgia at 4 or wherever they put Georgia, and then they should have put Alabama at 2. Because, yeah, I don't agree with them jumping all the way up to 1. But I guess for social media's sake, they put them at 1 just to shake things up a little bit, I guess. But engagement farming, if you will.
Next thing I kind of had a problem with, and it's going back to your Louisville Cardinals. Louisville goes on the road, loses to whatever they were at the time, number 16 Notre Dame, on the road. After that, they drop 7 spots all the way to 22, where Ole Miss is at home, and also Louisville only lost by 1 possession. Ole Miss stays at home, and unranked Kentucky comes in with already 2 losses on the year, beats them at home by 1 possession, but yet Ole Miss only drops 6 spots. Me personally, as many people out there say there is no such thing as a good loss, I think losing to Notre Dame is a much better loss than losing to Kentucky at home. And do you feel the same way about that?
I mean, I've seen the people like mad about how much we dropped. It's tough because there are those other teams behind us in the rankings who won last week, whereas we didn't. So I can understand why we fell. Like, you always got to think about that aspect of it. Like, there's still teams behind you in the rankings that won, whereas you didn't. But you know what? The same thing goes for Ole Miss. There's teams behind them that won, whereas they didn't. Personally, I think there's a very real conversation that could have been held to put Kentucky in the top 20. Sorry, I worded that wrong. Like, within like 20 to 25. Like, I think there's real conversation that Kentucky should have been snuck in there. But I can't complain too much because of that reasoning that I just gave you, that there are teams behind us that won, we didn't. But I can agree to this in a sense that I think Ole Miss probably should have dropped more than what we dropped. But at the same time, you got to think that there's probably some conference bias going into that a little bit and stuff. So, at the end of the day, it is what it is. Like I said earlier in the episode, there's plenty of games left in the season to rise back up to rankings. So it is what it is.
I wanted to make that clear. Like, I mean, right now the rankings don't mean a damn thing at all right now. And then it's like as far as Kentucky goes. I mean, I don't see how you can put a 2-loss team in this early in the season. I feel like that would have ruffled a lot of feathers for anybody that's not a Kentucky fan or just impressed with Kentucky so far. I'm okay with us not being ranked right now because I do think if by any means, I don't want to jinx it, and I feel like I'm jinxing it by saying this, if we do win our next 3 games and we're sitting at 6-2 going into the Tennessee game, I think we'll be ranked by then. So like I said, I'm not upset about that one either. The last kind of discrepancy I really have with this top 25, Clemson. I could be wrong, and I understand Clemson necessarily hasn't played anybody since Georgia, but since they have lost to Georgia, Clemson's been on an absolute tear. They have been on a tear, and to only be 15th with their 1 loss coming to a Georgia team, I feel like they need to be way higher than 15. In my personal opinion, I think they're a borderline top 10 team with what they've done since the Georgia game. Because there is 1-loss teams in that 10 area, right? You got Michigan, USC, Ole Miss, LSU, Notre Dame, all in that 1 loss around the top 10. I feel like Clemson deserves to be higher, much higher.
Yeah, I think Clemson has definitely performed very well since that Georgia loss, but I think it's still very hard to gauge how good they really are because they haven't played anybody necessarily. So I think it's fine to wait a couple more weeks before like putting them in the top 10 per se. But from what they've looked like from playing these like lower level teams, they've looked every bit of a top 10 team. But like I said, I just think it's tough because they haven't actually played anybody yet. But there's but there's a lot of teams that haven't played anybody. Ohio State just played their first somebody, and if that, Michigan State they're in some war figuring out what their identity is. So, I mean, Ohio State hasn't played anybody. I mean, shit, Texas played Michigan, but who else has Texas played? Right. So it is what it is. You can't really, it's tough.
But yeah, I felt like looking at that top 25, I was kind of astonished by exactly how they ranked things. And I think part of that is that people aren't taking the rankings too serious after we're 5 weeks into the football season. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of hear your thoughts on it as far as each specific discrepancies I had in the top 25.
Right. Right.
Well, Josh, did you have any other specific games you wanted to talk about?
I don't, but if you'd like to, I can go down the list of games. Actually, yes. I do have one more game. I have one more game I want to talk about. One more game I want to talk about, and then we can get into predictions, I suppose. Yeah, you know what game I'm going to talk about. You think it was a touchdown or not?
So me personally, I don't think it was a touchdown. Don't stop. I can hear it. I can hear it right now. I think it was a touchdown. I don't think it was a touchdown, but you cannot overturn it. You cannot overturn that ball play whatsoever. There was zero evidence that ball was caught or not caught. You cannot overturn it. That's what I say on it. It was not a catch, but you can't overturn it. It should have been a touchdown.
Yeah, and for those of you that don't know, we're talking about Virginia Tech at Miami, which is a game that Miami took home 38-34 on a failed last-second Hail Mary attempt by Virginia Tech. So if you would have asked me the night of, I would have told you that it was a catch. But after further review, I also would agree with you that it is not a catch. However, literally, like you said, word for word, you can't overturn that. No. Because the reason you can't overturn it is and for the record, it was the right call overturning it. Like because he did not catch it, like because it wasn't a catch, that was the right call to say that it wasn't a catch. But you can't overturn that because you can't call it a touchdown on the field and then watch that replay and then overturn it because there just was not enough conclusive evidence to overturn that decision. But when I looked at it, the one thing I saw, which I would assume is what the refs saw, is that the DB had his hand on the ball as well, which I believe technically makes the play dead, or the ball a dead ball.
Because that DB was out of bounds,
Because
right?
that DB was out of bounds, yeah. So it would therefore it would technically make that a dead ball, which therefore makes it an incomplete pass, which therefore, not a catch. Miami wins, which I assume is what the refs saw. I assume the refs saw that. But at the same time, I kind of fight internally to be like, okay, maybe that is what they saw. If that's what I saw, then maybe that's what they saw. But yeah, I don't know.
You also got to look at it like the Virginia Tech guy, it somewhat looked like he had possession. You don't know if the ball, you can't really get a good view if the ball was moving once he had possession. But if he had possession, it was a catch.
Yeah, it looked
all you need in a touchdown.
It looked like he did have possession of it, kind of. Like it really did. Because he had those two forearms, like pressing the ball together. But yeah, I don't think there was enough conclusive evidence to overturn that. And you know what? I will say this. If the situations were flipped and that was Miami going for that Hail Mary,
it would have stood.
I don't think that play gets overturned. I think that play gets called a touchdown, and I think Miami walks home with the win either way.
I hate that is the narrative, but I think that is the truth. I think you are 100% spot on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate that that's probably the truth as well, but it is what it is. That's kind of the state of college football that we're in. They always say it. Don't leave it in the hands of the refs, and that is the reason why. It's because of stuff like that. But the last thing I will say about that game is Cam Ward put that team on his back. Like Cam Ward is the reason they won that game. He played incredible.
Except he did have two throws that were kind of questionable that both were picked off.
Yeah, those two interceptions they were a little bit sketchy, but they were earlier in the game. And after those two interceptions, he really changed his game, and he really stepped it up, and he put the team on his back and got them to where they needed to be to win that game. So I personally think Cam Ward played fantastic.
Right. I do too. I was just saying those two throws, but I'm 100% with you. I guess another controversy, just bleeding over to the topic, I don't see how Ashton Jeanty is not leading the Heisman race, but instead Cam Ward is. Now, I don't know if that is true after this past week. I don't know if I've seen this past week. But I know last week he was leading it.
It might be Milroe now.
Yeah, easily. But even then, even if it is Milroe, I still don't understand how Ashton Jeanty is not leading the Heisman race after what he has done the past 5 weeks. I guess you're looking it up right now.
Okay, so as of Sunday, September 29th, so yesterday, 2 days ago.
2 days ago.
As of 2 days ago, it goes Jalen Milroe, Cameron Ward, Travis Hunter, Ashton Jeanty. So Ashton Jeanty is currently in 4th right now and favorite to win Heisman.
At least he's getting some recognition.
Which does make him a finalist, technically. But
at least he's getting some recognition, but I still think that overall you can't the Heisman should be on individual performances, and nobody has had a better individual performance all year long than Ashton Jeanty. What he has done, and doing it against legit teams too. Like what he did what he was doing against Oregon. Like he ran all over Oregon.
Yeah.
And talk about putting a team on his back. He's the reason why Boise State is one of the favorites to make the playoffs this year out of the group of 5.
He put Boise State on his back and almost beat Oregon.
Yeah. I that blows my mind more than any of the controversies this week. I feel like he is, in my personal opinion, the runaway favorite right now for Heisman.
Yeah, he's definitely my personal Heisman favorite right now. And it's like you said, he is on record-breaking pace. Like, literally, like he's on pace to break Barry Sanders' records right now. We're 4 games into the season, and this kid has 845 yards and 13 rushing touchdowns in 4 games.
Wild.
In 4 games. Wild. And I
don't believe it. I don't understand it.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And, it's...
Do you think there's bias because Boise State is a G5 team? Is that why? Do you think that's the way it is? And these other favorites are Power 4 teams?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think it's because he's playing for Boise State. I think if you put Ashton Jeanty on any P4 team, he's potentially the favorite.
Mm-hmm. And because I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, I could totally be wrong on this. The last finalist, like legit finalist, that I could think of that came from a group of 5 team was Randy Moss, back when he played for Marshall. That's the only one that I can think of since then. And you know what type of year Randy Moss had to have. I could totally be wrong on that. They're definitely, and more than likely I am wrong, but that's the only thing I can think of.
I'm gonna look that up actually, because that is.
It is intriguing. It is an intriguing thing to think. It's just intriguing to think of all time that a group of 5 player could win a Heisman.
Oh, 100%.
And that's going to add It's going to add controversy because I know people are going to say, "Well, he didn't play anybody." So I don't know.
It is what it is. Let's see. I've got it. The last group of 5 Heisman finalist was in 2013. It was Jordan Lynch, quarterback for Northern Illinois.
Oh, wow. Does it say after that, or is it just that one?
Before that, it was Colt Brennan, Hawaii quarterback.
Colt Brennan.
Hawaii, yeah.
Back
in the early 2000s.
He put up some crazy
That boy was a
numbers,
dog.
though. Yeah, that makes sense.
That boy was a dog.
He put up some insane
Also,
numbers.
R.I.P. He died like last year, I think, sadly. So, but that boy was a dog. He was that. He was like that Hawaii offense was like the originators of the air raid.
Yeah, it was throw.
Yeah.
Deep downfield every time.
Yeah, that was.
But
watching some of those highlights is very fun to watch.
And I guess that is the exciting thing. I mean, very rarely do you get a group of 5 player that is that legit that they're in the Heisman voting.
Mm-hmm.
And when it is, it's because they are putting up the most insane numbers of all time, like Colt Brennan did. at what Ashton Genty is doing this year, putting up some insane numbers. Randy Moss back when he played for Marshall. It's fun. It's very fun to see those players whenever you do get a player like that in a group of 5, just how good they are. And makes you think what they would do if they were on a Power 4 team. Because, I don't know, like, would they have the same success going up against that top talent every week? Or would they just kind of fizzle out and be just an average running back, quarterback, whatever it is?
I have a question for you. So,
Yes.
Ashton Genty has, let me pull this up real quick because everything is all over the place right now. Okay, so Ashton Genty has been at Boise State for 3 years. He is a true junior, and he had a great season last year. He kind of really broke out. But he's almost at his numbers from last year. He's 1 touchdown away from tying his highest from his high from last year. Last year he had 14 rushing touchdowns. He's at 13 in 4 games.
That's insane. That is insane, dude.
He had 1,347 yards last year. He's at 845 right now. So he only needs, from the games he's having right now, he only needs 1 more game to break what he got last year. So
6 games in?
That
Or 5 or no,
5
what are they
games.
at?
5 games in.
5 games in.
So that leads me to this question. He's a true junior. I think. I'm pretty sure he's a true junior. He's about to put up a historic record-breaking season. Do you think he transfers?
Yes. Well, he's a junior though, right?
Yeah.
You said?
Yeah, he could go to the league. He definitely could go to the league, which he might.
I feel like that's the first option. I feel like that is option number 1. That
I think Ashton Genty, like, I think he could be a round 1 quarterback, dude. Like,
running back.
we don't. Yeah, running back. What did I say?
You said quarterback.
Oh, I think Ashton Genty could be a round 1 running back, and we do not see that very often. The last one we saw was Bijan.
No, not at all.
Bijan's great, but I
just think that no matter what he does, if he transfers or stays at Boise State, I don't think he's gonna. I just don't think he has another season like he's having this year. It's just even if he does have a really good season, I don't think he replicates what he's done this year.
But if he does transfer, yes, he's probably not going to have a replica season of what he's having this year. But even if he has half of what he's doing this year at a higher level, like at a SEC level, dude, like that's eyeballs on you right there. Not that he doesn't have eyeballs on him already. I mean, let's be honest
not at all. I think it would be best for him to take his 1 extra year of youth, translate that to the NFL, and just go off from there instead of using that 1 year of youth to play another year in college, which you have already proven that you can dominate, whether it is Group of 5 or Power 4, because we saw what he did against Oregon. It was only a 1-game sample size, but still, he went off against Oregon.
Right.
I don't know. I definitely, but I guess to answer your question, if it's not going to the NFL, I do think he does transfer. Just to get that more, not only more experience, but also just even more eyes on him, looking at him, and more of a prove-it year, saying, "This, I'm not just doing this against Group of 5 Mountain West teams."
Right.
So that's my take on it.
Excuse me. Sorry. All right. So, Parker, I think we're about at that time in the podcast. We've got all the games that we wanted to review under the rug. Would you like to let the people in on what our prediction records are before we get into it?
Yes. So I calculated it up from the past 2 weeks because I did not have them for last week. So I got but it's weird because we didn't do a week in the middle of that. So it's actually, we have week 3 predictions. Well, no, I'm sorry. Let me refrain. We have week 2 predictions, week 3 predictions, and week 5 predictions are the ones that we have predicted on. So me and Josh play like a little inner game, if anybody cares at all, where we try to see who is better at picking the top 25 matchups. Right now, through 3 weeks of picking, Josh, you are sitting at a 51-8 record. A few losses this past week. Your most losses in a week was last week. I am at 54-5, which I believe my most losses in a week were also this past week. So I got a 3-game lead over you right now, but that could obviously turn in a heartbeat, especially with the crazy amount of games coming up here soon. Who knows what's going to happen? But yeah, so 3-game lead right now. But let's get this thing going.
No. Sorry. All right. So, as usual, we take the top 25 and we go through those games. So if you hear like a discrepancy in like what the last week's teams were and this week's teams, it's because that the top 25 changes sometimes. So that is why we only predict the top 25. So starting off first, Parker, we've got Syracuse traveling to Las Vegas to take on the UNLV Rebels.
Very intriguing matchup. And that's something that we could honestly talk. We could make it its own section another day. The whole Matthew Sluka situation was insane. The first real problem with NIL. But last week, I forgot Matthew something. He's got a strange last name. Stepped in and no, not Matthew. I'm sorry. I just completely forgot what his name is altogether. But stepped in and really showed out for Las Vegas. But Syracuse does have a top tier quarterback over there for the Orange. I'm gonna roll with UNLV here. I think UNLV is keep this momentum going, and it's a home game in Vegas.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go UNLV too. I think that fan base is really hyped for their team, especially since they're 4-0 right now. And Haj Malik Williams stepped in last week and actually tore up Fresno State. He missed 3 passes on the day, I think, and threw for 3 touchdowns. He is what that receiving corps needed at quarterback. And for those of you that don't know, they have an incredible wide receiver. Parker is very familiar with him. Ricky White is an incredible wide receiver, and I think that there's a real opportunity for them to tear up Syracuse, especially with it being a home game. And Syracuse has looked relatively unimpressive since their last win. So
surprisingly, because I thought they were going to be a lot better, but UNLV really has that chance to, I think, put themselves ahead of the rest of the Group of 5 competition. Even though I was just gassing up Boise State just a second ago, I think if UNLV wins this game over Syracuse, it really puts them ahead on right now who the leader is to get that Group of 5 playoff spot.
Yeah, and talk about a race too. UNLV and Boise State. That's one hell of a race.
That's going to be exciting down the wire.
All right, so next up we've got Michigan State traveling to Eugene, Oregon to take on the Ducks.
I'm taking Oregon. I think the Aiden Challenge experiment has really flopped so far this year.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm going Oregon as well. I just think Aiden Childs makes way too many mistakes while also at the same time making very good plays. He's too 50-50, and I don't think you can make stuff like that against Oregon, so I'm also taking Oregon. Next up, we've got Missouri traveling to College Station to take on Texas A&M.
Yeah, this is a very exciting. What are you picking here?
I don't know.
Okay, well then I will say I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take A&M. I'm gonna take A&M because well, first of all, they failed me last week because I thought Arkansas was gonna beat them. And the last time we saw Missouri, it was them going down to the wire against Vanderbilt at home at Missouri. Went down to the absolute wire. Texas A&M, really their first major game since Notre Dame, week 1. I got a feeling that place is going to be bumping, especially against the number 9 team in the nation. So I'm going to go with A&M.
I think I'm going to agree. I think I'm also going to go A&M. I think there's 2 major things here. One, Connor Wigman isn't the quarterback anymore for A&M.
Mm-hmm.
Marcel Reed is. And Marcel Reed has looked incredible. Whether it's passing the ball, scrambling, running the ball, he has looked incredible as a true freshman. He has honestly looked like a mini Johnny Manziel out there. Like, he looks incredible. My second point, A&M's defense. A&M's defense is a defense that Missouri does not have. So I think that is what honestly edges Texas A&M out with this win. I think A&M's defense is just the best defense Missouri has gone up against this year, which is a team that struggled against a Vanderbilt defense. So,
it's exciting
and it's at College Station. So
I'm excited because Missouri is one of those final teams that have been stuck in this top 10 that has yet to really have a legitimate contest. I understand that Vanderbilt took them down to the wire, but going into that game, Missouri should have won by a whopping amount, in my opinion, but they didn't. So this is really intriguing because we're going to see what is Missouri like against real competition without Cody Schrader, because Cody Schrader tore up the SEC last year.
Yeah. Alrighty. Next one, we've got UCLA traveling to Penn State.
Penn State took care of the Fighting Eli, however you say it, last week. I think Penn State continues to roll here against UCLA.
I'm going to go with Penn State as well. Mm-hmm. Next up, we've got SMU traveling all the way from Dallas, Texas, to Louisville, Kentucky, to take on the Louisville Cardinals.
Very exciting game. I think it is going to be a close first half. I think it's going to be a close first half. Maybe even an SMU lead at half, maybe. But I do think Louisville pulls away dominantly in the second half. I think they're going to come out swinging big time in the second half with a major bounce-back win. I'm taking Louisville all the way in this one.
Yeah, it's a win we need. It's a win we want. It's a bounce back that we need. I don't think there's any doubt in who I'm taking here. I'm taking Louisville. Next up, we've got Indiana traveling to Northwestern to take on Northwestern Wildcats.
Keep the Hoosiers rolling, man. Let's keep the Hoosiers rolling. Also, on top of that, Northwestern really hasn't been impressive. I'm as much as they're supposed to be a rival for Kentucky. That rival's kind of died down over the past couple of years. So I mean, I'm respecting my foes across the Ohio in Indiana. So I'm going for the Hoosiers here.
Yeah, like you said, as much as a rival as they're supposed to be to Louisville in football, I'm going the Hoosiers. They're on a roll this year. So why stop now? Next up, we've got Auburn traveling to Athens, Georgia, to take on the Bulldogs.
This is going to be an absolute beatdown if I've ever seen one. This is going to be like a 5-possession difference type of game. This is going to be a murder in my eyes.
Yeah, Georgia.
I'm picking Georgia.
Yeah, Georgia is going to grab Auburn, pull them underwater, and just hold them there for 60 minutes. It is not going to be pretty. Yeah, I'm going Georgia all the way. The next up,
I mean, really quick, is this going to mark? I don't know. I'm looking it up really, really quick. Is this going to mark a 3-game losing skid? Oh no, never mind. Oh, yeah, it will. It would be if they lose that. It would be their 3rd loss in a row. 4 losses out of the last 5 games for Auburn. So, it's unfortunate timing for Auburn to play Georgia because they really need a win.
Yeah. The next up, this game is actually, I was looking at it before we started the pod, Parker, and this game is actually very fascinating to me. And it is Ole Miss traveling to South Carolina to take on South Carolina.
Yeah, there's multiple storylines in this game. South Carolina has kind of struggled since the second half of the LSU game after the Kentucky game. They've not been, not the same South Carolina that we've seen against Kentucky. Whereas Ole Miss has everything in the world to prove now. You want to talk about a must-win. This is a must-win for Ole Miss. But at the same time, if South Carolina can have that same pass defense that they had against Kentucky, I don't know. Who are you picking on this one?
Personally, I think South Carolina's defense is pretty stout, especially that defensive line. Um, they've got Evans. No, not Evan. I don't know his name. I forgot it.
You talking about the
I
freshman?
forgot it. Yeah, the true freshman defensive edge they have is a stud. Tears teams up. South Carolina looks a little better than we might have thought this year. They're 3-1 on the season. Ole Miss is coming off of a really tough loss, so I'm sure they're gonna want to avenge that. But at the same time, Ole Miss looked really bad against SEC competition. So I think I'm going to take the Gamecocks here. I was not impressed with how Ole Miss played against real competition.
I am going to take Ole Miss, I think. Yeah, I'm going to take Ole Miss. And the reasoning behind that is because we saw what Georgia did offensively, even though they lost to Bama. We saw what Georgia did offensively to Alabama. They put up points against they did put up points against Alabama, even though they lost. They put up points, and I kind of expect the same thing. Even though South Carolina does have a great defense, I would be surprised if I see Ole Miss go down 2 times in a row. If that's the case, Lane Kiffin's seat's got to be on fire in that case. In my opinion, you bring in all that talent and you can't win with it in SEC play. I don't know. I'm taking Ole Miss though. I think Ole Miss takes this one.
Alrighty. Based off the recent trends, I'm sure you'll get that right and I'll get it wrong. This is what it is. Next up, we've got Iowa traveling to Ohio State to take on the Buckeyes.
I can't remember. Who did Ohio State play last week?
Michigan State.
Michigan State. Definitely, I think Iowa is better comp than Michigan State is. Obviously, you got to worry about that stout defense that they always have. Their offense is got question marks around it. Is it good? Is it bad? We saw them put up a lot of points a couple weeks ago, but then they struggled against Iowa State afterwards. I think Ohio State shouldn't have a problem with it unless Ohio State is just another Ole Miss and they struggle after real competition. But I'm going to go with the Buckeyes here.
Yeah, I'm going Buckeyes as well. The next one, we've got Alabama traveling to the tough home field advantage of Vanderbilt.
Yeah, no, roll Tide roll here. I don't see Vanderbilt slowing down the momentum Alabama's got right now.
Yeah, me neither. I'm taking the Tide. Next up, we've got Clemson at Florida State. If you asked me last year, this would have been a close game, but unfortunately, it's not last year, and unfortunately, Florida State sucks. So I'm taking Clemson.
As much as it's been so fun to just dog Florida State this year and just everything about DJU and stuff like that, I would love nothing more for them to come out and beat Clemson. I really would. I would love it. But nah, Clemson, like we said earlier when we were talking about the top 25, they've been on a tear. They've been on a tear for the past couple weeks.
It would be cool if Florida State beat Clemson, but I don't even know who Florida State's starting quarterback is going to be for that game. So
it could. That could be a blessing in disguise for Florida State. We really don't know yet.
It could.
There's been a few times where the backup has been much better than the starter.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it could.
But even then, I don't see how Florida State stops this high-powered offense that Clemson's got.
Alrighty. Next up, we've got Utah State traveling to Idaho to take on Ashton Genty.
Not Boise State rolls.
I'm also taking Ashton Genty. All right. Next up, we've got Baylor traveling to Iowa State.
Iowa State's still a team I don't know a lot about. I know a lot of people picked Baylor to beat whoever they played last week. Who was it? Colorado. A lot of people picked BYU. A lot of people picked Baylor to beat BYU. I never saw it. I picked BYU the entire way out. But at the same time, I don't know anything about Iowa State, so I'm just going to go with Iowa State because they're the home team and they're ranked.
Yeah, I'm taking Iowa State as well. I really like Iowa
State. right?
Yeah, I really like Iowa State. Sorry. I like brain froze for a second. All right.
Yeah, I don't know anything about him.
Yeah. The running back's really good. Sama.
Is it?
I don't know his first name, but his last name is Sama, and he's really good. I know that.
Interesting. Interesting.
Next up, we've got USC traveling to Minnesota to take on the Gophers.
I think this is another intriguing matchup, but I am going to go ahead and just take USC. Just because Minnesota came that close to taking down Michigan last week. I think it could be interesting because we have seen USC struggle at times. But yeah, no, I'm taking USC.
Yeah, I'm also going to take USC, although oddly enough, both USC and Minnesota lost to Michigan 24-27. So I'm gonna take USC as well, but that was interesting to see.
It is intriguing for me. It's very intriguing.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. As far as I'm talking about Michigan at this point, I'm not sure about Michigan, but yeah, I'm taking USC.
Me neither.
Next up, we've got Tennessee traveling to Arkansas to take on the Razorbacks.
Tennessee.
I'm going Tennessee as well. Next up, we've got Michigan traveling to Washington to take on the Huskies.
Give me Will Rogers and Washington on this one. I was waiting for this game this whole time. This is my big upset of the week. I think Washington takes down Michigan.
I'm gonna take Michigan because I don't like Will Rogers. I don't think he's good. I don't think Washington is the same Kalen DeBoer Washington.
No, it's not.
And I think Michigan's defense is good enough to just win them the game, even without them passing.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I'm going Michigan.
I like it. I guess a big deciding factor for me was because Washington is also the home team.
Yeah.
And I think Washington does get loud there. I mean, last year when they went on their run, that place was popping at times.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm just taking Washington here.
All right. Next and last game we've got, which is College Game Day this week, is the 10:30 p.m. kickoff game featuring Miami going to California to take on the Cal Golden Bears.
I would have loved for game day to be at Vanderbilt. Tell me that wouldn't have been awesome. And I mean, this was the year to do it. No, like you said, nobody really knows anything about Vanderbilt. Alabama's obviously on fire. That game will probably be a blowout. That's probably why they didn't do it. But it would have been awesome to have game day at Vanderbilt. That surprises me that Miami, California is game day. But I guess there's not too many crazy games this week. I think Miami got their one scare out of the way. I think they get back on the right track here against California.
I agree. Although the travel time is definitely something interesting to watch. Just as far as them having to go all the way from Miami, Florida, all the way across the country to California. So that's definitely
That's something that Louisville's going to have to face here soon, isn't it? Don't they go all the way to Stanford?
Yeah, we've got to go to Stanford here in a few weeks. So that's going to...
That is going to be intriguing to see how that works.
Yeah.
If that affects anything.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. But yeah, I'm taking Miami as well. All right, well, Parker, I think it's going to do it from us here. Do you have any last final thoughts about this week or?
No. Like I said, Kentucky's on a bye week, so this is my week to just relax and hope for maximum chaos this week throughout college football because my team isn't playing and they don't have to be a part of it. Even though Kentucky was kind of like the main thing that caused most of the chaos this past week, I don't want it to be reversed on Kentucky at all. So I'm just going to sit back, relax, watch some good college football. Josh, that's all I got.
Alrighty, well, we appreciate you guys for tuning in and watching this episode or listening to this episode or both, as always. And we will see you guys next week. Thank you guys. Peace.
Peace.